a fantasy football scouting report on Brian Hoyer. Well, he only throws for this and did that. Well, of course, I wouldn't play him in my fantasy football league either. He's not a fantasy football guy, but I am. You guys know I like Brian Hoyer. I love the story, but beyond the story doesn't mean anything if there's no substance to it. That's what makes this intriguing, is that there's substance to it. And we're having some fun watching it play out. We'll see what the final tale is on Brian Hoyer, but I'm damn sure enjoying watching it so far. Hopefully you're enjoying watching it so far. I mean, that's maybe the difference, is that it's a more enjoyable than in the past. You know, even when you lose good football games, it's better than the alternative that we've been subjected to since 1999. Well, with that, we're going to go to the phones. We'll pick things up, talk some Browns, talk some NFL, talk the news of the day with Dr. Football Bill Chachkes. He's with us every Tuesday. Dr. Football in the house. Bill, how you doing?
I'm good, Jerry. I just had to put down my Les Paul because, you know, whenever every time you put that my theme song on there, Dr. Feelgood, I have to run around the room with my Les Paul and make like I'm playing air guitar.
There you go, man. How you feeling here? You know, a lot of off-field stuff going on in the NFL, but a lot of good football going on here through 2 weeks too.
Absolutely, and you know, I know you just made a comment about stubborn people reporting. Those are the same stubborn people that voted for Stevenson in the 1948 primary. You know, they just couldn't get over themselves.
Well, there's stubborn people everywhere. And listen, I'm not standing here telling you
not
that.
You.
No. What I mean is I'm not telling you that Brian Hoyer is the next Kurt Warner. I'm not telling you that he's that undrafted guy that makes a name for himself and locks. I'm not doing any of that. I'm simply stating what I've seen so far in the limited sample size. That's the key word. Limited sample size, you know, but when people even when you talk about, well, you started 3-2 last year, Brian Hoyer got hurt, it changed the season. You started 1-1 this year, so in the past 2 seasons, you've now started 4-3 combined. But the key X factor in all of the victories there is the guy we're talking about, Brian Hoyer. And I do think the fact that he's showing up on Total Access tonight, the fact that he's getting, I've seen some national press. I think Monday Morning Quarterback had him as the player of the week here this week. So at least early on, and look at what we talked about, fighting through the first-round draft pick and having a guy that's just been practically anointed the job from the day that he's been drafted. And really, I think the national media is jumping on it like, hey, there's a hell of a quarterback story going on in Cleveland, and it's not Manziel. I just think it's good. I'm glad to see Hoyer get the credit for the hard work that he's put in so far.
Oh, no question. But, you know, I think the real story here with this team in the first 2 games is the defense, obviously.
Well, yeah.
The defense is what's keeping them in the game. You know,
absolutely.
The fact that they're mounting a pass rush that they didn't show much of last year. You know, I think these are all key. You know, these things are indicative of a team that has made a transformation from the end of last season through the off season into training camp and into the beginning of this season. It's a completely different team. You may have a lot of the same personnel, but it's a completely different team. And this is what a good general manager and, you know, a better than average to really good coach can do for a team.
And, you know, like we talked yesterday, and I mentioned that I thought the key play of the game before the 94-yard drive at the end was Dansby with that sack on 3rd down that not only got the ball back but stopped the field goal attempt, which would have made it a 4-point game instead of a 1-point game there. And I was thinking about it last night, talking to my son a little bit about the game, and I'm like, that play is the difference in the way the defense played compared to the last few years, or really the last 15 years, is not just that they went and got the sack when they needed it. That's rare. The Browns don't get the 3rd down sack when they need it. They just never do. When some teams have a guy where you can go, J.J. Watt, you can go, hey, this guy, Mario Williams, whoever it is, go get me the quarterback. The Browns have never been able to do that. But it's not the fact that they got him. It's the fact of the play call is what gets me, because they went big or went home. They went with the blitz, whereas every year before, last year, no doubt in my mind, you play prevent on third down, you try to hold them to a field goal there and get the ball back, but you make it much more difficult because now you have to score a touchdown instead of a field goal. For once, the Browns' philosophy was different. It was attack, deal with it, instead of let's try not to mess this up, which for so long is the way they've played. You can't play football. You're going to lose more than you win.
Yeah, no question about that. And I'm going to give you Carlos Dansby from a different perspective. I am now doing the Wednesday press conferences with Bruce Arians by phone that he does for opposing media. And I was in there last Wednesday, getting ready for the Cardinals-Giants game this weekend. And I asked him, just talk a little bit. I know you like to talk about guys that are here and not guys that are not here, but talk a little bit about the loss of Carlos Dansby to Cleveland. And he said, no doubt in my mind, he's definitely worth 2 wins. So
yeah, and early on,
that's his former coach saying, you know what, that would be 2 more wins for us if we still had him.
No, I'll tell you what, Dansby has been a difference maker early defensively. Again, these are early results here, small sample size. But on top of that, I think one of the other defenses early on has been I don't want to say reemergence, I'm going to say first-time emergence since he got his big contract of Paul Kruger showing up and playing some football, because through the first 2 games and really through all of training camp and preseason, he's been a different guy. He came in lighter. He came in willing to – they changed his style a bit. They thought that he was being over-aggressive. They said a lot of times he was overrunning the sack, and they saw, looking back at video last year, that he was actually allowing the offense to take him out of plays by being over-aggressive. He's scaled that back a little bit, and as we've seen, he's gotten some sacks. He's made some stops. He's gotten some pressure. That pick 6 was all Paul Kruger bearing it on the quarterback and making that play. That was something he did not do last year. He did not have thought he was. I didn't think he was. To be honest, I thought he was a bad free agent signing. But so far, that's a difference maker too. That's having that pressure. Paul Kruger, hats off early on to being willing to lose weight, to being willing to be recoached a little bit and change what got you to the dance, as they say, in order to do what the team needs you to do. I got to give him credit for that.
And the other thing is that he's a guy who, like every other player who's got something to say, in the NFL, he wants to win. And he's proven that he's willing to do whatever he has to do to put the team in a position to win games. And I think that's the most important thing. That's the difference from this year to last year, is that last year, some of these guys were, I don't want to say going through the motions, but, it kind of looked that way, that some of these guys were just going through the motions, really, to get the season over with. And this is a completely different outlook for this team. These are guys who are, they're staying late at practice. They're working with the coaches late. They're working with the veterans in their position group late. The position groups are staying together. That's the most important thing, that you have your offensive and defensive lines working together and working late after practice. And that's what these guys are doing. They're putting in the work because they want to win.
And you know what? I'm going to be interested to see. I mean, again, the health of everybody, and really the quarterback is the more, because as we've seen, missing a few key guys, that's what's been, I think, surprising with the first couple of games is next man up. We always say it, but that does not apply here in Cleveland. First man up is hard enough sometimes, let alone next man up. But they have done just that. I mean, it's hard to project forward because you look at last year, and when Hoyer went down, I mean, that completely changed everything. You lose 8 games in a row after that. I mean, the season falls apart. But if they can maintain their health, I'm just curious to see the difference in how this team plays in a season where it's not over before it began. And I don't just mean the game, I mean the season. When you fall down 0-2, 0-3, 1-4 to start the season, a lot of times in Cleveland, that means the season's over before it started. So, there's a different way that you play when you got that fire, and I'm interested to see if they can maintain that. Health of Hoyer is going to be the key there, obviously, because that's where everything fell apart last year.
Yeah, no question. And, you want to make sure that that line protects him and does everything they can. There are going to be instances where they can't. No left tackle is perfect in this league. Otherwise, you'd have quarterbacks throwing for 7,000 yards instead of 3,000 and 4,000. But you definitely have a different outlook on this team this year, at least so far. And what they do now in September and the first couple of weeks of October is going to be the telltale as to what they're doing in December. I truly believe that.
Absolutely. Oh, you're right. And you know what? Terry Pluto already started to prime the pump for that this morning in the Plain Dealer. He had an article, and I shook my head because I do agree with what he said, but I'm like, man, Terry, you should have waited 2 or 3 more weeks to write this one. He wrote an article, and I love Terry Pluto. He's great, about the Browns. And this is true because I've mentioned this often on the air. Looking ahead, if you allow yourself to do that, to potentially getting Josh Gordon back in Week 10 with 6 games left to play, and a playoff stretch, and a stretch of teams where that's a difference maker. And I'm not there yet. So that's why I said I thought he was a few weeks early on that. But the article hit on a lot of those points, that if you can tread water, if you can, continue to win as much as you lose and keep yourself in the game, as they say, in the hunt, that's a difference maker down the stretch that comes back. That was going to affect this big if you allow yourself to get there. But that is so the Ravens coming up at home, and I think this is going to be the most Ravens games yet that we've seen since the Browns have come back, for the combination of a buzz for the early start, starting at home 1-0, which they haven't done, by the way, since 2004. Charles Morgan looked that up for me yesterday. Before that, they hadn't done it since 1995. So starting 2-0 at home is a very rare feat. Since it's been a decade since they won the first one, they might as well win the second one. It's been a decade since they've done that too. But the Ravens, there's going to be a atmosphere of rabid fans more than usual, and a reinvigoration of this rivalry this Sunday, I think.
Well, because and here's the thing. The thing that plays into Cleveland's favor here is that neither the Ravens nor the Steelers look that great just yet. And this is an opportunity for the Browns to get one up on Baltimore very quickly and put Harbaugh in that mindset that, okay, we're playing from behind now. And that's what you want Cleveland to do. You want to make the opponent think that they are playing from behind, not that they can be successful. And, I could see where Sean thinks that maybe the Ravens come in and shut the Browns out. But that was last year's team. I don't think they can do that this year. I think, they've lost a lot in the last 2 years since the Super Bowl, last year and part of this year. They've lost enough guys off that team, just a little bit. Still a very good team. They're no longer the great team that went to and won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, see, I like the Ravens. I think they're a strong team. I mean, so I'm definitely not one of these guys going, oh, yeah, the Browns can just go win this game. I mean, hell no. What team are you watching? But, yes, I do think the Browns not only can, I've already said, I think they do. I think they're going to shock the world and go into the bye week at 2-1. And if they do fall, I do think it'll be a very, very hard fought game. But I'm telling you, I think they're going to ride that momentum. They rode the momentum of the second half of Pittsburgh. You could see it flow right into that game. The key, here's how you win. You start the game the way you started the game against the Saints. You've got to get that defense out there with the building rocking and have Joe Flacco backed up in his own end of the field and get after them early. I thought there is one of the biggest unheralded things from the Browns game the other day. The fact that the Browns won the toss and said, we want the ball in the second half. We're going to put our defense out there right off the bat. They questioned it on TV. They said, well, I don't know why you wouldn't want to put your offense first against the Saints. And I'm like, I know why he did it, because he wants his defense to go out there on the first series and try to set the tone. Plus, now you get the second half kickoff. I've always been a big fan of getting the second half kickoff because I just think that you have the opportunity to change a game. If you're losing at halftime, you can instantly change it right off the bat. If you're winning, you have the chance to bury the team early in the second half. So I've always been a big fan of that, and I don't know why the Browns seem to like to get the kickoff to start the game, but I thought, man, there's a gutsy decision, because you're going to throw that defense out there right off the bat with the hot crowd, and you're going to try to take advantage of it. I thought that was a great call by